We're making the best Butterfinger protein chocolate bars in one pan that don't require any chocolate dipping. They're made gluten-free with almond flour and have the classic Butterfinger crunch with cornflakes and natural peanut butter. And they're naturally sweetened with maple syrup and your choice of chocolate chips. Hello, my name is Nicole Bonilla, and if you love healthier recipes to our favorite foods, then you are in the right place. Now to make these really easy bars, we're going to start by prepping our 8x8 baking pan. Now I like to line mine with parchment paper because it makes it really easy for getting the bars out of the pan. I'll fold one side on the square, score the other side, fold it on my score line, put it upside down in my pan, crease the inside edges, and fold the ends up and over the top. And then I'll give a quick spray on the exposed ends with some nonstick. And now we can set this aside. Now to increase the protein of these bars and make them more sturdy and delicious, we're adding a really simple chocolate cookie layer. So we're going to start with 2/3 a cup of almond flour. Now you're welcome to jot down these ingredients as we go along, or you can click on the link that's in the video description below, and that will take you to my website with the full recipe and all the details. Next, we're going to add some chocolate protein powder, and you can use any variety that you like. My favorite is an organic vegetable protein powder that also has nuts and seeds. And I've included a link in the description if you'd like to check it out. I'll add 1/2 cup of protein powder. And for a little more chocolate, we're adding 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. And for natural sweetness, 3 tablespoons of maple syrup and 3 tablespoons of melted coconut oil. And you'll want to use coconut oil because it solidifies when it becomes cold. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I just use my cap because it equals a teaspoon. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of milk, and you can use any variety that you like. I'm going to use some almond milk. And now with a sturdy spatula, we'll just mix this all together. I like using a spatula because it's really easy to just kind of mash all the ingredients. And we'll just keep stirring until we've got all of our dry ingredients collected and we have a nice soft cookie dough. Now, depending on how absorbent the protein powder is that you use, you might need to adjust this consistency. So if your dough is too dry, just add maybe another tablespoon of milk. And if your dough seems a little bit too wet, then just add another tablespoon of almond flour. But this consistency is perfect. It's nice and soft, but it's not sticking to my fingers. And then we'll take our prepared pan and just drop our dough right inside. And I'm just going to hold my parchment paper in place with my left hand, and then I'll start pressing the dough into the bottom of the pan. And now that the dough is pressed down nice and smooth, this is ready to bake. We're going to put this into a 350-degree oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, or until it's just slightly starting to brown around the edges. Now to give our bars that really classic Butterfinger crunch, we're going to use cornflakes. Now I really like this brand of Nature's Path organic fruit juice cornflakes because they're gluten-free and made with all natural ingredients. But you could use any cornflakes that you like. So we're going to start with 2 cups of them, and I found it's easiest just to pour them into a bag because we need to crush them down nice and fine. And then I'll just take my rolling pin and smash them down. Now you want to smash them down fairly small because then that makes the bars easier to cut as well as to bite. So it started out as 2 cups of cornflakes is now 1 cup. Now to make the peanut butter mixture with the cornflakes, we want to start by melting down our maple syrup and our peanut butter together. So in a saucepan over low to medium heat, we're going to add 1/3 cup of maple syrup. And for the peanut butter, I like to use natural unsweetened peanut butter. And because it's at room temperature, it's pretty liquid. So I can actually just pour it into my measuring cup. So I'm going to add 2/3 of a cup of peanut butter. But you can use any variety that you like. And for extra flavor, I'll add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now this is optional, but if you'd like to make the flavor even just a tad deeper, you can add a teaspoon of molasses. So I'm just going to pour about a teaspoon right on top of the peanut butter. And then we're just going to mix this together until all of our ingredients are well combined. And if you're using a thicker peanut butter, heating it up in this pan is going to help soften it down so that it can mix smooth with all the ingredients. So we're not trying to cook it or reduce it, we're just trying to get all those ingredients to blend nice and smooth. Well, that looks well blended to me, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heat. And we'll pour our crushed cornflakes right inside. Now we'll just stir all this together. And you're going to be really impressed how these very simple ingredients are going to give us that really classic Butterfinger crunch. Now that this is all mixed together, we can go ahead and set this aside until our cookie layer is done baking. Well, here's our cookie layer out of the oven. Now we can take our peanut butter layer and spread it right on top. Be sure to use your oven mitt if your pan is still hot. So I'm just going to take my spatula and spread this evenly on top of the cookie layer. Now that we've spread this layer out so it's nice and smooth, we want to let this cool off before we put it into the freezer. So I'm going to let it sit out on my counter for probably 20-30 minutes, and then I'm going to put it into my freezer for at least 30 minutes and even overnight if needed. And then we're going to add our chocolate layer on top. And I have found it works much easier to allow this layer to become very chilled before we put the chocolate layer on top, because then the chocolate layer will solidify fairly quick, and then we can cut through it to get some nice neat bars before the chocolate has frozen solid. Because once it freezes solid, then the top tends to crack when you try and cut it. But I promise it will be delicious either way. So if you're impatient and don't have time to wait, you could certainly just add your chocolate right now and then let it all set in the fridge. So I'll let this one sit out on my counter till it cools enough to go into my freezer. So here's a batch that I made earlier today, and then I let it sit in my freezer for a few hours. So to add the chocolate layer, you could use any chocolate chips that meet your dietary preference. So I just put half a cup of chocolate chips in my bowl, and then I'll add 1 teaspoon of melted coconut oil. And then I'm going to melt this in the microwave in 30-second intervals, taking it out to stir in between until it's melted and smooth. So after 2 rounds of 30 seconds, our chocolate is nice and melted. I'm just going to keep stirring it until it becomes really smooth. Now your bowl might be a little warm from the microwave, so I'm going to use a towel to hold mine. And I'll go ahead and just pour this all over the peanut butter layer. Now because our peanut butter layer is cold, this is going to set pretty quick. So we're going to work nice and fast. Now it's all poured in, I'll take my spatula and just spread this out all over the peanut butter layer. And you could certainly use more chocolate or less if you like. I try to use enough that it has the candy bar satisfaction, but then try to use the least amount to minimize the sugar. Now, if you could use more healthy inspiration on a regular basis, I invite you to join my email list. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, and that is the best way for us to stay connected. Now this is optional, but I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of some coarse sea salt on top to help balance out the sweetness of the chocolate. Now I don't want to cut these into bars until the chocolate has had a chance to set, but I also don't want it to be frozen because then the chocolate layer can crack as I'm slicing it. So I'm just going to put this into my fridge for about 10 minutes, just until the chocolate has a chance to harden. Well, here's our bars after about 10 minutes in the fridge, and I can tell that the chocolate is just set, so they are ready to slice. So I'll first run my knife down the exposed edges, and I can very easily lift them up and out of the pan. And then you are free to slice these as large or small as you like. I'm going to cut mine to about the size of those snack size Butterfingers. So I'll cut in about 1 inch. You can see it, I get a nice clean cut through the chocolate. Oh my goodness, that looks so good. Time for a sample. That is so delicious. I love biting into that soft cookie layer that's on the bottom, and then you get that instant peanut buttery crunch with the cornflakes. And then I love getting that layer of chocolate on top, and that little touch of sea salt just takes it to another level. That has everything we love about Butterfinger, but with much healthier ingredients. And I love that they're gluten-free, so everyone can enjoy them. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen. I've included a link to this full recipe, and it's in the video description below, and that will take you to my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I cannot wait to have you hang out with me again in my kitchen.